Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Barish, managing partner at Barish McGarry. We're really happy to be doing this webinar for Pentagon survivors and to clarify some misconceptions, because we've got a real problem that we're trying to overcome, and hopefully you out there can help us spread the word that responders who were at the Pentagon are just as entitled to free health care as the 9/11 victims from the World Trade Center. I'm joined today with my partner, Lee London. Please wave your hand, Lee. Jennifer Jimenez, one of the experienced attorneys on our family assistance team, the people who take care of the thousands of family members who have lost loved ones from the 9/11 carcinogens. John Field of the Feel Good Foundation, former veteran of the Army, and retired FDNY Deputy Chief Richie Allies, who's going to talk to us about the health program today. So having said that, would you take us out with a short little video that'll set the stage, and then we'll come back in a minute.
The first responders, I'm in awe. It's your courage and your resilience that brought this place back. So please, I urge you, access what you are owed.
Over the last decade, we have all fought very hard so that everyone has access to the health care that they need. You are part of the group of people that have guaranteed health care if you have a 9/11 related disease.
So we have taken on, with all of these advocates here, the task of trying to get everyone to understand that they have rights, and it is imperative that they sign up.
One of the really surprising things about our research is that an event in 2001 can continue to have echoes 17 and 18 years later, such that it is as though never smokers are smoking 2 packs a day.
My law firm represents 20,000 people in the 9/11 community. Every single day, we hear from more and more survivors because we're doing this outreach. You need to get 2 people to sign an affidavit attesting to the fact that I saw him. I worked next to Joe. That's all it takes. There's a reason why my firm takes all this so personally. I have 6 young people who work for me who have lost a parent or a spouse as a result of 9/11 toxins. 9 people in my law firm, including me, are cancer survivors. The information you get from us is going to be compassionate, and it's our pleasure to help you.
So let's get started. Lee, I'd like you to start by explaining some the major misconception in the Pentagon community. Who at the Pentagon is eligible? And then I'm going to ask John Field to talk a little bit about efforts to make more people eligible.
So thank you so much, Michael, and thank you everyone for joining. This is a very important topic because the Pentagon community that responded on 9/11 is severely underpopulated in the World Trade Center Health Program and the Victim Compensation Fund. And we do these webinars to educate and to spread the word because many people responded to the Pentagon, volunteers, first responders, that still don't know that these benefits apply to them. Many people retired. You know, if you responded to the Pentagon in 2001 and then you retired in 2006, you're not up to date with the education that has happened with the 9/11 fund being permanently funded and extended. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that you only qualify if you were in New York, but that is not true. Pentagon responders were there, they volunteered. They are first responders, and they do not have to be sick to get into the World Trade Center Health Program. So the fact that there are so many first responders that went to the Pentagon that aren't in the health program, that's why we're doing these webinars, to educate and to make sure that you spread the words to your coworkers and friends, because these are benefits that will save lives and really help with horrible treatment of conditions that are arising out of your exposure from the Pentagon. But the biggest difference is the exposure period, which I have to state, because all you need is 4 hours of exposure from 9/11/2001 to November 19th of 2001. 4 hours of exposure as a first responder or a volunteer and you qualify for the World Trade Center Health Program. If you were a survivor at the Pentagon, meaning you worked there the day of 9/11 and were running from the attacks, you qualify for the Victim Compensation Fund, but you don't qualify for the World Trade Center Health Program. We have many clients that fall into that category, and we're here to help.
And I think, Lee, the reason for that is that when Congress passed this bill, and John Field, I'm going to have you explain this in detail, there were a lot of negotiations. And at the end of the day, the people who were against providing these benefits said, well, they can always go to the VA. They don't need the World Trade Center Health Program. Well, we're trying to change that. So, John, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, one, thank you, Michael, and thank you for everybody who's watching this. Let me apologize now, because in 2010, when we were negotiating this bill, the opposition did not want civilians or military included in the World Trade Center Health Program, and they were cutting corners in the very beginning. And I apologize because over the years we've been to the Pentagon area, Arlington, Fort Belvoir. We've been down there 4 or 5 times, and I knew while we were speaking to first responders, we were leaving out those civilians and those members of the military. And shame on me, but we've been advocating diligently the last several years. And by the end of this year, when the $3 billion is included in the omnibus, the president's budget, that $3 billion will not only help the World Trade Center Health Program continue its mission, it's going to allow those civilians and those military members of the Pentagon to enroll in the World Trade Center Health Program. And for those who were removed from the World Trade Center Health Program because of that technicality, they'll be able to get back in. But that also allows you to file a VCF claim. The VCF is the Victims Compensation Fund, so it's one half of the James Hidroga Health and Compensation Act. And I implore you now, if you're sick or you know somebody who's sick or you know somebody that died from a 9/11 related cancer, then have them come forward and file a claim, because those here at Barish McGarry, they're going to help you. We're working diligently. I promise you my one kidney, we'll get this done in December. And we're going to help about 800 to 1,200 people that were excluded from the program. And it's been an honor over the last 19, 20 years to be able to serve the 9/11 community.
All right. Thank you, John. And Richie Alley's, you were with the FDNY. You're now doing community outreach at Barish McGarry. But I'd like you to tell people one of the things that I hinted at the beginning, which is the World Trade Center Health Program is available to responders at this point, and as John said, hopefully to everybody, including the civilians down the road. But it's in Washington, it's in Virginia, it's in Florida, it's everywhere.
Yeah, I want to give a hearty welcome to all my brothers and sisters in Virginia and surrounding counties. When we started lobbying originally for this legislation back in 2007, the health program was the most important aspect for me as a first responder. And knowing that we were exposed to horrendous toxins, which was proved in the autopsy of the very first 9/11 related death, Detective Jimmy Zadroga, NYPD, who was Michael's client. Michael had the family do an autopsy. So when we were battling with the federal government, New York City, as far as what was in the air, that autopsy proved everything. So it was a toxic group, cancer-causing agents. So, the very basis of the health program is an annual medical exam. It's called the World Trade Center Medical Monitoring Exam. Again, sorry for the World Trade Center code, but now that everyone, responders to the Pentagon are aware of this, it's critically important. Many of you, police officers, firefighters, have health insurance. So you're probably thinking, well, why do I need to go to the health program? Well, the health program has doctors and nurses that are specifically trained for 9/11 related illnesses. So me as retired FDNY, what I do is I schedule an annual exam with my primary care physician. I schedule my World Trade Center medical 6 months later. So twice a year, I'm getting checked out. Is that going to prevent me from getting sick? No. But if something's going on, then I'm going to find out sooner rather than later. And early treatment, early detection, early treatment is a game changer for us responders. The second reason is we have many first responders that are on life-saving medication. That's prescription. We all know the cost of prescriptions. Many of us have a prescription plan as retirees of a city fire department or police department, but there's always co-pays and there's annual caps. You never want to use your personal prescription coverage for a 9/11 related illness. Why would you when the federal government is going to pay for it 100%? Mailed to your home. And then the third reason, as Michael alluded to before, this is a national program. So the federal government uses an insurance company that contracts with various hospitals and medical clinics in all 50 states and designates them as a World Trade Center Health Program facility. So there's always going to be one, usually within 50 miles of your home. And that's it in a nutshell as far as the health program. And, should you get diagnosed and certified with an illness, then it's a treatment option. Again, you can always get treated by your private health insurance, but being in a health program gives you access to state-of-the-art medical facilities without any paperwork and without co-pays that's always involved in everyone's insurance.
Richie, I think we've just been joined by one of your colleagues, Mr. Morrison. Patrick, say hi.
Hello. Hey, Pat.
So yes, please tell us a little bit about your background and what the IAFF has been doing to help us spread the word about this national program.
No, first I want to thank you and for putting this on, because you're correct. I mean, I think the Pentagon responders have been sort of on the backseat of this, and I think this is a good way of getting the information out. For me personally, for the members of my department, the departments around the DC area and the region did respond that night. I remember leaving 2 nights later after that attack and going up to New York City for 2.5 months to work up there. And I realized that how many responders in the Pentagon just did not understand what the effect was of their response. I've been at the IFF now for 20 years. I did spend time at 9/11, and what I do know about and the protection and really protecting yourself is that we know that we bury 70% of the firefighters that we put on our wall in Colorado Springs have died from occupational exposure to cancer. 70%. We average about 250 names that go on that wall, and that number has just been climbing. So cancer is probably one of the biggest topics today in the fire service, and the protection that you actually need. And a lot of times municipalities and other places are going to fight you tooth and nail that you don't deserve this benefit. It's not this benefit we're going to give you, and that you have to fight for that. And being able to have a program that a lot of people put a lot of sweat and blood in getting it for the right reason and getting it passed. It wasn't easy. I mean, I'm sitting here to know because I remember listening to the story time and time again. I am part of the World Trade Center Health Program. I can tell you the benefit of that. I didn't want to do it. I mean, I was one of those firefighters in the back step that just said, "Hey, listen, that's not for me. I don't want to participate in this. I don't think I deserve it." And then I realized that this is exactly what's for me. I mean, I came down with occupational cancer. I came down with esophageal cancer 2 years ago. I struggled with that. I mean, that was a life-threatening thing. And Richie, if I didn't have surveillance programs going on with the doctor's care, I wouldn't be here talking to you today because I got mine in an earlier stage. So thank you.
Pat, I so appreciate your kind words. Richie, would you share with us your personal experience of going for an annual physical at the Bureau of Health Services, which is part of the World Trade Center Health Program, and how that discovered and diagnosed your cancer.
Yeah, well, I'm a skin cancer survivor. So at my annual World Trade Center Medical, which, you know, a dermatology exam, a full body skin exam is not something that's included in that. So it is something that we recommend to everyone if you've never had a full body skin checkup, to do that. Turns out that the pH of the toxins in both ground zero and at the Pentagon were basically the equivalent of Drano. So these fine particles get on your skin, work their way in, and basal cell and squamous cell, which are both non-melanoma skin cancers, and their evil cousin melanoma skin cancer is the most common cancer in the 9/11 community. And, you know, skin tone is meaningless. Anyway, I had, you know, at the end of my World Trade Center Medical back in 2010, the doctor just happened to notice as we were talking something that didn't look right on my neck. He recommended that I go to a dermatologist. I'd never been to one before, and lo and behold, it was a basal cell skin cancer. Now, it's, again, as I said earlier, early detection, early treatment. You know, left unabated, this can wreak havoc with people. I'll tell you a story about an FDNY battalion chief, a man in his 50s in tremendous shape. Guy's a marathoner, handsome. I hate the guy. Just kidding. But he is not the type of person that would, you know, seek out a dermatologist. He's a 9/11 responder, had heard Michael and I talking about this time after time. Lo and behold, he develops a rash on his arm. Now he has to go to a dermatologist. He goes. Lo and behold, it was just that, a rash. But while there, the doctor performed a full head-to-toe skin exam, and he detects a slight discoloration under one of his fingernails, which he didn't like. He went in, did a biopsy. The biopsy came back. Not only was it skin cancer, it was melanoma, the most aggressive form. They had to cut the tip of his finger off, and he had to undergo some chemo because those cancer cells can find their way into your lymph node system. So to prevent that, that's what the purpose of the chemo. But the moral of the story is he's alive and well and in great shape and still working in the FDNY. And it could have been a totally different story because he would have never gone to the dermatologist if he didn't happen to develop a rash on his arm. So it's a lifesaver.
So that's a perfect segue to Lee London and the benefits of the Victim Compensation Fund, which in a nutshell is financial security for your family.
Thanks so much, Michael. So a few things that I just wanted to go over because I've been doing this work for I think 9 years now. You know, I've been asked every question under the sun with Pentagon first responders, and the number one you know, comment that I make is just join the health program if you're sick or not. A first responder does not have to be sick to join the World Trade Center Health Program. It will not impact any current benefits you have. Many of my first responders just need a push. You guys are amazing at helping others. You are horrible at helping yourself. So this is what I say to you is please register for the program. It won't hurt. It's an extra layer of benefits, and do it for your family. If you're part of the VA, great. Join the World Trade Center Health Program. You want to be with people and doctors that know 9/11 exposure and that can connect the dots for you. Another big question I get is, oh, I only have a minor illness. Why should I join? I don't care if it's a cough, if it's a cancer diagnosis, if it's minor, if it's severe, join the program. Get part of the benefits now. So God forbid in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you get diagnosed with prostate cancer, breast cancer, bladder cancer. You're in the program already. You're covered. You secured your proof of presence. So please, if you have any issues, questions, or concerns about joining the health program, or if you've read stories or your friends have gone through the program and have had bad experiences, the program is getting much stronger. And we have to go through these waves in order to get the best program available.
So Lee, one of the most common questions we get, and I'm looking at this list of the 68 cancers, is, oh, my mother had breast cancer, or my dad had prostate cancer. What's your response to that?
It does not matter. It's a presumption. And when I say it's a presumption, I mean it's already been linked. If you have the exposure, then it's automatic that these cancers and conditions were caused by your exposure at the Pentagon, okay? The dots have been connected, so it's a presumption.
Lee, tell us, what does a Pentagon responder need to show in order to get into the program?
So you need to show your proof of presence. And many times people are reluctant to move forward because they say, oh, my facility lost the paperwork, or, oh, all I have are pictures. That doesn't matter. We can help you. You need two forms of proof of presence. Many people have roll call lists. Many people get affidavits. Affidavits are key. They don't need to be notarized, but if you were with a coworker that went with you down there, then you each fill one out for each other. Now, you want to secure your proof of presence today, so God forbid you get that moment 10 years from now, you already have it set up. One of the biggest questions I got recently was, my time and attendance records were destroyed, but I have pictures and I have an award for my fire department. I have roll call lists. Should I move forward? 100% yes. This is what we do. I track down presence for people. I connect people that saw each other that day. Do not be discouraged and get your proof of presence together today. But the Zadroga Act is split into two entities. You have the World Trade Center Health Program on one side, and you have the Victim Compensation Fund on the other. The World Trade Center Health Program provides free medical and monitoring, and the Victim Compensation Fund provides a monetary award for your pain and suffering, which can range depending on what conditions you have. So when I say pain and suffering, non-economic loss awards can range from $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, all the way up to $340,000, depending on what conditions you have. And the best part about it is you never waive your future legal right. So if I got you an award in 2016 for asthma for $50,000, and then God forbid 5 years later you get bladder cancer, I can amend your claim for an increased award. You never waive your future legal rights. God forbid your 9/11 conditions force you out of employment and you go on disability and you leave your job. Your family needs to be taken care of. And the Victim Compensation Fund understands that. That's why they give awards for loss of earnings. They also give awards for out-of-pocket medical expenses, because in 2008, when you were battling your cancer diagnosis, the health program wasn't a treatment program at the time. It was a monitoring program. So you paid out of pocket. So any types of 9/11 conditions you pay for out of pocket and you're not part of the health program yet, save every receipt, because we can make that claim directly to the Victim Compensation Fund for an award for you and your family. It is very important that you get into the program and to know that the Victim Compensation Fund will give you monetary awards for non-economic loss of your pain and suffering, loss of earnings, out-of-pocket medicals, and Jay from my office will talk to you about all the amazing benefits that applies to the estate.
So Jennifer, can you tell us, what do you do at our firm, and tell them what the family assistance team is?
Hi, thank you, Michael, and thank you everyone for being here. Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Jimenez. I'm a senior attorney with the family assistance team. So the family assistance team at our firm, we help families of victims that have passed away due to a 9/11 condition to try to get them compensation for losing that loved one and other benefits that are related to losing that person from a 9/11 related condition. As Michael mentioned, it's very sad. We are seeing growing numbers of people passing away. And in fact, more people have died from 9/11 conditions since 9/11 than the number of people that actually passed away on 9/11. So I want to go over a little bit really quickly with you guys about the benefits that your family might be entitled to if you should pass away from a 9/11 condition. So in addition to filing a personal injury claim for compensation related to the pain and suffering for having a 9/11 condition and lost earnings, your family might also be entitled to benefits related to you passing from that 9/11 condition. For instance, there's an additional pain and suffering claim of $250,000 if you do pass from your 9/11 condition for the decedent. If the victim is also survived by a spouse, there's an additional $100,000 for the spouse for their pain and suffering. Also, if the client passed away with any dependents, there is an additional award of $100,000 directly to each dependent.
And
There's
Jen, can I just ask you, does a dependent have to be a child?
No, a dependent does not have to be a child. It can be anyone that's over 18 that maybe might still be in college. They might be in their early 20s. They qualify. It could be a disabled family member that you might be able to claim on your taxes. There's a lot of varieties of what a dependent is. It doesn't necessarily have to be a minor child, but it's someone that depended on the victim.
So it could be a parent that you're taking care of because they're disabled.
Correct. It could be a disabled parent, could be even an elderly parent that just needs your help. They qualify as dependents as well and would be entitled to that $100,000.
Okay. And tell us, what is lost household services and replacement services?
Sure. So lost household services are anything that the victim used to do for the household they shared with their family or for any of the members of the household. This can include things such as cooking, cleaning, maybe driving around a family member that isn't able to drive, taking care of pets, doing yard work. Anything that the victim used to do for the family would qualify for compensation related to.
And what kind of awards does the Victim Compensation Fund give for loss of replacement services or household services?
So replacement services, it's case by case basis. It depends on how many people lived in the household, how old the person was at the time. But we see them range anywhere from $70,000 upwards of $200,000. So they're pretty significant.
Got it. All right.
And then in addition to that, there's also possible claim for lost earnings for the loss of the person's career if they would have continued to work if it wasn't for them passing due to their 9/11 conditions. And the Victim Compensation Fund will also reimburse for the funeral expenses as well.
Right.
So when you add up all these categories, I mean, they're pretty substantial, and the awards can range from hundreds of thousands of dollars even into the millions, depending on the circumstances.
So John Field mentioned the fact that no amount of money can really make a family whole once they lose a loved one. But Lee, would you speak to a little bit to what has the reaction been to those people who are in stage 4 cancer, and how do you expedite those claims?
Sure. Great question. So, anytime someone gets that, oh my God moment where they get diagnosed with a horrible condition, cancer condition, and it becomes stage 4, and they get a shortened life expectancy, the Victim Compensation Fund has an amazing program set up to expedite this situation and claim so we can turn around a monetary award for the family. And we've done this in less than 2 weeks before. So we can avoid the World Trade Center Health Program, avoid the Pentagon Health Program, as I like to call it, by Pentagon first responders, and go right to the Victim Compensation Fund and expedite it. So this happened a month ago. Somebody called me, they got a stage 4 diagnosis of bladder cancer, and we rushed it through the Victim Compensation Fund because they want to help you, and they put the most sick first, ahead of the line, which is what we want. And this client was able to have a monetary award for their family before he passed away, so he knew his family was taken care of. And the Victim Compensation Fund wants to see it, and we push for it because God forbid you get that moment or something changes and you're filing a claim and then you get that call, we can pull you out of the line and get your claim expedited immediately, because these are the situations that come up. Also, 9/11 first responders, Pentagon first responders, once you get sick, it's very difficult for you guys to get life insurance anymore. That is the number one question I get from many of my clients that say, now I have this cancer. I don't qualify for this life insurance, this and that. The VCF has seen that, and that's why they're very generous with wrongful death claims and so forth, because they see how hard it is for people to get life insurance when they're alive and they get these diagnoses. So it's so important that, God forbid you are sick, or you tell your family that if something happens to me, you can make a claim to the Victim Compensation Fund for benefits after. You can get an award while you're alive, and your estate can get an award, God forbid you pass away to a 9/11 related illness. The fund was permanently funded and extended for this reason.
Jen, would you take us through our final slide? What should people be doing now if they haven't already gotten into the health program and the victim fund?
Sure. So one of the main things I really can't stress right now is making sure you're talking to your families, making sure you're talking to your family, your friends, support groups, that they're aware that if you pass away from a 9/11 condition, that they're entitled to benefits. Unfortunately, we are starting to see that many families are not aware that they could benefit from these benefits, and often don't even know that they qualify till years later. Very often, as you might know, when we lose a loved one, it usually needs help now, not years later, which is why it's important that your family knows now before you pass away that they should follow up in trying to get these benefits. But the sooner you can get your claim in, the sooner it will get reviewed and we can get some help to the families.
Right. And there is a strict 2-year deadline from the date of death, but the Victim Fund has been very lenient if you can show compelling reasons why your husband never applied. But if he was in the health program and he was certified with, say, an illness, and then he dies and no claim is made for more than 2 years, it's going to be tough for a widow to prove she didn't know that she could make the claim. So go ahead, Jen. What else should be done now?
The second thing regarding deceased cases that I really stress is getting a will. The reason that you really want a will is then you get to choose who you want as your executor and who would be the best person to make the claim moving forward. In addition, parts of these awards for deceased cases, they go through your estate. So you're able to choose who would get those pieces of the award. If you didn't have a will, then a statute that was set up by the government would dictate who gets that money, and it may not be the person in your family that you think is best qualifies for the funds. So this way you get to choose where those funds go. In addition, the estate process, which is one of the requirements to make the deceased cases, can take some time. But when there's a will, it's generally a lot quicker, sometimes even a year quicker than if someone doesn't have a will. So we highly stress that you try to get a will as soon as possible. Really, I just want to touch on some of the things that other people have said earlier. As Richie mentioned earlier, skin cancer is becoming one of the most common conditions that we're seeing amongst the 9/11 community. So you definitely want to get your skin checked. As Lee mentioned earlier, you want to get in the World Trade Center Health Program and the Victim Compensation Fund, regardless of whether or not you were sick. Because if you can get certified now, and if you can get found eligible by the Victim Compensation Fund, that'll be one less hurdle that your family will have to overcome if you pass away.
Unfortunately, I know you all heard horror stories after 9/11 of families, maybe not responders, but families fighting, who should be the executor. Executors rarely get paid. So we never understood why the deep-seated fighting, but it got really ugly. And sometimes that happens when it comes to money and losing a loved one. I want to thank everybody, especially Patrick Morrison. I've never met you in person, but I appreciate you joining us today. It's such an honor to represent the members of your union. And Richie, thank you. John Feel, your Feel Good Foundation is truly remarkable for what you do. And to my partners, Jen and Lee, thank you for staying late tonight. Guys, please, again, spread the word. It's an honor to represent the 9/11 community in general. It's an honor to represent the Pentagon responders in particular. Good night. Stay safe.